Hello and welcome back to Fear the Waves Inside the Wave Show. I'm here with a special guest, Derick Bugg. Derick, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm happy to be here. Glad you asked me to do this, and looking forward to talking some Green Wave football.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining the show, Derick. For those who don't know, he is the Director of Player Development for Tulane football, nicknamed Big Money, with a 5-year offensive tackle at Tulane from 1998 to 2002. As a sociology grad, came back to Tulane post-Katrina to work for Tulane Athletics and Facilities and Event Management. Worked for 12 years for Tulane Campus Rec and became the assistant director of the program. Where are you, Coach?
I am in our new team room, our new that was done over the summer. It's a fantastic room here with lots of TV screens and projectors, very, very comfortable chairs. During fall camp, you can catch some of the guys in here in between meetings and practices trying to catch some sleep in here. So it's a very comfortable room. It's very nice, very, very nice. I'm very jealous we didn't have this when I was playing.
Yeah, the team's definitely lucky to have that now.
Yeah, for sure.
One of my favorite stats last season was that Shadre Hurst never let up a sack. Vinnie Murphy hadn't let up a sack in, I believe, 2 years before this year. You also didn't let up a sack in your last 2 years of high school. Am I right?
Yeah, golly, you do some research. That's true. That's true. My one great thing that I was really good at was playing left tackle and pass in my pass rush. My freshman year, even though I was redshirting, Coach Bowden would always call me down during one-on-one pass rush versus the defensive line to do pass sets against the defensive ends because he knew I could handle my pass rush. Now, if I could block in the run game, maybe I would have been in the NFL, but my pass rush was my specialty. I was always quick and agile.
All right, stay tuned for the second half of this recap show for the Rice game, and I'll break down who did better in pass rush than run block, pass blocking than run blocking in the game against Rice with the PFF grades. Not perfect by any means. I don't know if they're the best evaluator, but really the only data we actually have publicly available on blocking. Fans on the message board were very excited for your return. They said you had a very positive attitude about Tulane football for a long time. Can you explain what your player development role is? Because I don't think most people, including myself to an extent, really know what it means.
Player development is it's a fancy term or title for big brother, mentor, life skills type of position. And it's not just me. I mean, this is Coach Sumrall. This is what he wants, and this is the position that he developed for me to come in. And there's other people involved, Courtney Laquette, Hannah Richards. We're all hands-on in terms of the guys, whether it comes to helping them out with their financial aid or, helping them get with our academic team downstairs. In terms of finding the right classes, we might not be able to tutor them for a specific class, but we can help them find those things with the help of our academic team, mental health, physical, nutrition, everything there is. I welcome our freshmen to campus. One of my biggest things is in the summer when all of our freshmen get here. So, it was 20 something, 30 guys that got here for the first time to campus this summer. And I greet every single one of them and their family. Me and the GAs help them move into their dorms. And it starts there. I greet them. I talk to them about, their stipends, their meal plans, where the laundry rooms are, how to, if I need to teach them how to do laundry, a plan for how to keep your rooms clean and to have conversations with your roommates because most of them are having roommates for the first times. So I talked to them about, hey, here's a plan for, when to clean rooms and those common spaces, dishes, all that sort of stuff. So down to the basics of how to communicate with other people that you're living with, all the way to having them ready for when they graduate from Tulane and going on to life after football.
Interesting. That's valuable. We often talk about how a Tulane degree is a 40-year decision and not a 4-year decision. And that's one aspect of it as well.
Yes, sir.
Not football related, but I know that the women's basketball team gives out mentors to all the players to really help them with their career aspirations. And so there's a lot of different things in all the programs that's happening to make sure that these student athletes are taken care of after they leave Tulane.
Absolutely, and Coach Summerall is very big about that. And one thing that since when he got here in the spring, we weren't able to do this last spring, and I didn't arrive until February, so we had already got started. But going into this spring and this summer, we're going to have a similar program where we're going to have former players, former letter winners of Tulane football, and potentially some outside of football if need be, but former Tulane graduates, and where they're going to partner up. We're going to start with probably our juniors and senior group, and have them have mentors over the spring semester, not during football season, so spring and summer, and pair them up with, whether it's career goals, and if that doesn't match, then maybe like where they're from, things like that, similar interests. But yeah, we're going to have a program where our former players are going to be able to give back to our current players for those career paths, and even talk to them about, hey, what's it going like in the spring, and maybe you're not where you need to be, and here's some strategies I used when I played in order to help me get through, battling for more playing time or things like that if they're not where they feel like they need to be.
That's awesome. I think that would be really helpful. It's obviously easier when you have 13, 14, 15 girls on the roster than for a team with over 100 players to find mentors and suitable mentors for all of them. But I look forward to hearing about who becomes a mentor. Heard it here first. Maybe if you're listening to this podcast and you are an alumni of the program, I guess reach out to Coach Bugg if that's all right.
Yes, sir. Please reach out to me. Don't call me Coach though. Just Bugg or Derick. The players call me Unc, and I'm fine with that.
Sounds good, Unc. So in your Twitter bio, you leave a quote from Bob Marley. The greatness of a man is not in how much wealth he acquires, but it is in integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively. First of all, I love this, and I have to mention that his grandson, Nico Marley, was the last Tulane player until Saturday with 2 fumble recoveries in the same game because Sam Howard did so as well on Saturday. But which players do you think represent this quote the most?
Man, you do some amazing research, man. Yeah, that's quite interesting that, Nico was the last person to do that. And with that quote I have, because Sam Howard is the epitome of that quote. I will sit here and not say the right words, and not enough words will come out of my mouth with the positive things I would like to say about Sam Howard and his impact, not just on me. Every day he makes me want to be better and do more and be a little bit less selfless or more selfless. And the way he's impacted the team and everybody around him. He's an awesome guy. He works hard. Obviously, you can see the results on the field, but off the field, nobody sees. After our trips, whether it's home or away, we take buses. He's the last guy there cleaning the bus. He will not let the bus drivers leave until he goes on there with a trash bag and gets everything off. The bus drivers will say, "Hey, no, I can do it myself. This is what I do for a living." And Sam will be like, "No, today you don't. I'm going to do it." Another example is for the game on the Saturday, he picked up the scoop and score. But it was freshman Javion White, who caused the fumble, and we have the turnover beads, and Sam didn't want the beads. He refused to put them on, but somebody, kind of forced them on him, and he took them off, and he went and gave them to Javion for forcing the fumble. And that's just the kind of guy that Sam is. He doesn't want the recognition. He's always thoughtful about everybody else around him, and he's been a great addition to this program.
Wow, those are some excellent stories. I had been seeing him return some fumbles and maybe even errant kickoffs in practice. I was like, why is he returning this to the end zone? It was a kickoff that was not a good kickoff, and we didn't return it. But it was fitting that he scored. You're right.
Yeah.
Mackay, sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah, Sam plays how he works at practice, and if there's a ball on the ground, he's going to pick it up and go to the end zone with it. And if somebody else picks up the ball, he's on them like, "Hey, you don't know what's going to happen. Pick up the ball off the ground and get to the end zone. Let the refs make the decision afterwards, but your job is to pick up the ball and get to the end zone with it." So
Mackay had his 4th 115-yard or better game this season and was named to the honor roll for the 4th time in the last 10 games that he and Tulane has played. Tulane's actually had a player named to the honor roll or player of the week in all 10 of those weeks. What was special about Makai's game this week?
I would say the most special thing about Makai's game this week wasn't even the stats that he put up there. The game was tied up, and before he went on that run, that series where he just got the ball over and over and dominated in that run for us to go up, you have to know Makai. Makai's, most people who know anything about Makai, just 5% of Makai know that he's a quiet guy. And Coach Summerall has made it. He's been very what's the word I'm looking for? He's been very I'm sorry here, I'm stumbling for words, but he's wanted to get Makai out of his comfort zone in order to go speak in front of groups and things like that, to build those leadership skills. And before that drive, Makai called the whole offense up. He called them up. I've never seen him do that once. And he got onto the guys in a positive, encouraging way, not one of those yelling and demeaning ways, but he was just like, hey guys, we can do this. Let's pick it up. And everybody was just like, heck yeah, like Makai is up here leading the group, and it was awesome. And that drive, that next series, we went out there and completely dominated in the run game, and he put his words to his feet and to his game. And he went out there and dominated with those runs. Like, he just wouldn't be stopped, wouldn't be tackled, even with that face mask and everything else. I mean, he just totally dominated, and it was awesome.
We enjoyed seeing Makai out on the field, and it's great to hear what else he is doing that fans don't see with their own eyes from the stands. Bugg, who on the team do you not really have to worry about when you're doing your job as the big brother? Obviously, Sam Howard's one of them, but who else?
Oh, man. I would say, honestly, so Carson Klein, he's a new guy. He's going to play, he plays safety for us as a walk-on, but he's going to play for this program one day, probably one day soon. It won't be his senior year when sometimes walk-ons have to wait a long time to see the field, juniors and seniors. He does everything the right way. He's very selfless. He's positive. He's encouraging. He works his tail off at practice. Like, Coach always talks to the scout team guys about how important it is that they do their job in order for our guys to have success on Saturdays, the guys that plays. And he's the epitome of that. He takes practice seriously in terms of giving a good look for the guys and working hard and encouraging those around him. On Saturdays during the game, he's not playing, but we have our juice squad, and he's one of the guys out there, yelling for the defense and the offense and encouraging guys as they come off the field. He just does everything the right way. If I have a young son who's 8 years old, and if he can grow up to be like Sam or Carson, I'd be a very, very proud father. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Not the answer that I or probably most people expected, but we'll keep an eye out for Carson Klein to be on the field in the future. This is usually the point in the podcast where I give the players an opportunity to shout out any of their other NIL deals, their Campus Connection merch. So instead, I'm just going to ask if there's anything else you want to share about the players or the team, coaching staff.
The biggest thing I just like the fans, to know that, and that Coach Summerall is he's what you see. Like, he's just super invested in our guys. He doesn't just. I've been at Tulane since 1998, and I was on campus all those years. And while I was on campus, I was heavily involved with every coaching staff that was here. So I've been around a lot of head coaches and a lot of coaches in general. And Coach Summerall is fully invested in these players, these student athletes, as becoming young men with high character, integrity, and working hard on and off the field. So I just, the biggest thing is, we're here to win football games, and we're gonna win a lot of football games. But he is very, very serious about making sure that our guys do the right things off the field, and that they're prepared for when they leave Tulane University with that degree.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bugg. That's a great note to end on. Love the Fear the Wave collective jacket. Make sure to get all your Fear the Wave merch at Campus Connection and hat. Great rope hat as well. I like the blue. I've got
Absolutely.
green. And roll wave.
Roll wave.
All right. I hope you enjoyed our first segment of the Rice Recap with Derick Bugg, Director of Player Development for Tulane Football. That was maybe the best interview that we've had yet. Really awesome to hear about the character of Sam Howard, Carson Klein, who I did not expect, and many others on this Tulane football team. So thank you to the former offensive lineman of the Green Wave football team and the undefeated 98 season. The undefeated 98 season was the last time that Tulane went 4 straight games without committing a turnover. They did not commit a turnover on Saturday for the 4th straight time. In 1998, they went the final 23 quarters of the season without committing a turnover. Darian Mensah has been efficient in the turnover game, was a little less efficient based on completion percentage in this one, 12 of 25 for 152 yards, 1 touchdown. However, 6 of those were drops. So if you take away the drops, he was 12 of 19, which is not great, but still a lot better than 12 of 25. This was a close game, much closer than pretty much anybody anticipated. 10-10 headed into the 4th quarter, and until Mekhi Hughes had a drive where he did everything himself with 2 runs to Duda Barnes and 5 runs to him. That was it, no passes. I said at halftime, I said before the game, I think Tulane could win without passing the ball, and that's indeed how they won, because Mekhi Hughes put it in from the 1 with 8 minutes and 22 seconds left to go up 17-10. Rice had a chance to tie the game, but then Sam Howard returned a fumble, 15 yards to go up 24-10 under the 2-minute warning. Thank you to true freshman Javian White for the forced fumble on that one. He had a coming out party last game. I talked about it a lot. Was one of my players of the week. Then got his first career start unexpectedly in place of Caleb Ransaw. Ransaw, the elite spear, elite as described by Coach Sumrall as well as myself in the PFF scores, dressed in warm-ups, went through warm-ups, and decided not to give it a go after warm-ups. So he did not dress. Shaz Preston did dress. However, Shaz Preston, although reported to play, did not enter the game. If he did, he would have been under a limited snap count, 10 to 20 snaps maybe, and that's what I expect him to be under if we see him this week against North Texas. I do think that there's a good chance that we'll see him, although in a small capacity. Alex Bauman, tight end who suffered what looked like a really scary injury, will also most likely be back on Saturday in Denton, North Texas. Machado, Tuggle, Garner, Wolfrat, Shine, Myrtle, Sissoko, Arata, some of the other inactives, along with Tate Jernigan on Saturday, and Patrick Durkin again. Reggie Brown, who previewed the game with me last week. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already. Great interview with Reggie about family and education along with football. Got the start alongside fellow tight end Anthony Miller, who did not have his best day despite actually getting a fumble recovery. Darian Mensah did fumble but did not turn it over as Miller was able to pounce on it, but Miller was the one who gave up a sack. The other offensive lineman who gave up a sack, it was just Anthony Miller, actually. Tulane went 3 and out on the opening drive, avoiding disaster, with Mensah being ruled down on the 1, went sacked on 3rd down. And Will Carroll had an excellent punt to bail Tulane out of that situation. I think they might have got a little bit fortunate with the spot on the 1. Could have been not so good, but Will Carroll sent that ball flying. He had a 64-yard punt. He punted, for over 300 yards and had a great day. Then Rice was caught holding on the punt, which extended the drive even better. Early on, Tyler Grubbs had his second career interception and the first non-pick six. That was a very exciting interception. Great catch by Tyler Grubbs, who's really improved his passing skills. Matty Hudak wrote about that today, actually, for SI Now. Jacob Barnes made his return and got Tulane on the board, finally, with 1 minute and 43 seconds left in the first quarter. The strong drive was stifled in the red zone. Ty was stopped on second down with Sean Nicholas, Bryce Bohannon, Duda Barnes, Reggie Brown, and Anthony Miller all in the game. So obviously a run play. And after a rah-rah green holding, Tulane had 4 wide receivers on third down, including Fat Watts and the 3 starters. Tulane actually fell down 7-3 early in the second quarter and was trailing for the first time in a month. That's how long it had been since Tulane was trailing in a game. Kurt Warner's son, E.J. Warner, was 8 of 10 for over 100 yards at that point and a touchdown. It was a slow start for Tulane. Mekhi Hughes, though, got his 9th touchdown of the season and his first receiving touchdown in Yulman Stadium. His only other receiving touchdown was at Oklahoma. Josh Remetich made up for his false start on the previous play with a major block around the 30-yard line that allowed Mekhi to run in pretty much untouched. The last opponent that Tulane trailed or was tied with in the second half was Oklahoma, 10-10 halfway through the third quarter in the Rice game as Rice tied it with 6:48 to go in the third. Micah Robinson had his first interception, in a Tulane uniform, and the Wave had their third takeaway of the game as Sam Howard had recovered a fumble that was forced by Aiden Huntington. Mekhi Hughes capped off a 6-run drive, 6, for his 8th rushing touchdown of the season, and he now has more rushing touchdowns through 7 games than last year in 14 games. The Tulane defense showed out in the fourth quarter. They had a major 4th down stop. They had that Sam Howard fumble recovery touchdown, and they also had a big man interception by Adonis Freelou to end the game. The second consecutive week with a big man interception. Very, very rare for Tulane. Elijah Champagny had one against Birmingham on the road. Tulane remained undefeated versus non-Power 5 teams and undefeated in conference play, going 3-0 to start the conference play for the 3rd consecutive year. The last time that they did that was from 1929 to 1931. Pretty crazy that this is only the 2nd time in school history with 3 consecutive 3-0 starts to conference play. In the press conference, Uncle Sam Howard, who we'll have on the show shortly, was still wearing his gloves and all of his pads. And I checked on him an hour after the game. He was talking to some family and friends outside the stadium and was still wearing his pads with the big pad on his back that Zeus Machado also used to wear as well. Very humble player and great to see him at the press conference. He actually started off the press conference with gratitude for being chosen to represent the Tulane defense at the press conference. North Texas ran 97 plays from scrimmage last Saturday, so it will be interesting to see how that game goes with Tulane. Next week, they beat Memphis, or they fell short of Memphis 44-52, despite Chandler Morris having over 500 total yards. Excited to be in Denton this weekend and cover the game for Fear the Wave. Mekhi Hughes also was a star of the press conference. As Coach Bugg said, he was more vocal than he usually is. And he said that today wasn't the Wave's best win, but a win is a win, survive and advance, and they're going to get focused and ready for their next opponent starting on Monday. Indeed, that is what I saw at practice this week. Mekhi had his fourth 115-yard game of the season. Tulane's team Pro Football Focus College defensive grade yesterday was their highest since holding Southern Miss to 3 points last season on the road. And the team's pass coverage PFF grade was their best since beating Memphis on the road to the Cotton Bowl. That was in large part due to 3 interceptions in that game. And also in this game. Tulane had 9 players with a PFF defensive grade that was better than all of the Rice defensive players before the regrade. After the regrade, Aiden Huntington was still well-liked as he had a score of 92 on PFF defensive grade. Following the regrade, Derick Graham had his best PFF grade of his 5-year career. For the 3rd straight week, 3 weeks in a row, he has beat his previous career high PFF grade. Among 21 offensive players, all 6 O-linemen, including Caleb Thomas, were in the top half of player grades, with all 5 stars in the top 8, and Derick Graham in the top 3 alongside Rashad Green, despite giving up 1 pressure and having a holding penalty. My players of the week this week were Micah Robinson for a 4 EPA interception and a forced fumble EPA expected points added. Aiden Huntington for that PFF grade, a forced fumble and 2 QB hits. Sam Howard with 2 fumble recoveries and a 7 EPA touchdown. Pat Jenkins, 5 pressures, 3 QB hits, and 2 stops. Will Carroll for over 300 punt yards, 64-yard punt, and 2 punts inside the 20. And then Mekhi Hughes, of course, with 170 total yards and 2 touchdowns. I had a really hard time leaving Matthew Fobbs-White off my players of the week, as well as Javion White, who would have made it if not for giving up the game's highest win probability added play. If Fobbs continued his production with more snaps, he would have made it, but he played about 30 snaps. There were a lot of standouts this week, and this was the least amount of offensive players I've ever had on my top players. But Mekhi Hughes scored 14 or 17 points, while the defense only gave up 10 and scored 7. So net 3 points, plus had 5 takeaways. So there were a lot of players I had to give credit to. Not only those who forced the fumbles or recovered them, but also who pressured those plays. I also included a special teams player in my top players for the first time this season. For honorable mentions this week, on defense, I had to have 2 parts for the 2nd straight week. As I said, there were a lot of standouts. Fobbs-White, Javion White with the forced fumble that led to a game-sealing touchdown for Sam Howard. Adonis Freelou with the game-ending interception. Ray Pleasant only allowed 16 yards and had a PBU. Tyler Grubb had an interception. Dixon Agu had 3 stops and played well in a small sample. Good in run defense as well. Terrell Allen had 2 pressures in just 8 snaps, and one of those was a QB hit. Parker Peterson was loved by PFF this week. He's had a great season, improving every week. He had an 87 PFF grade and 2 QB hits, plus a tackle for loss. Bailey Despaney was not targeted and was tied for the team high in tackles. Jonathan Edwards only allowed 2 yards on 1 catch. And finally, Cam Hamilton had 2 pressures and a QB hit. Back-to-back honorable mentions for freshman Javion White, as well as Matthew Fobbs-White. 3 honorable mentions in a row now for Adonis Freelou, who played just 5 games over the past 2 seasons before this, and 3 honorable mentions in a row as well for Cam Hamilton and Jonathan Edwards. This was the first honorable mention for Terrell Allen. Hopefully we'll see more of him moving forward. And then on the offense, in addition to Graham and Rashad Green, Bryce Bohannon had 2 catches on just 4 routes run. So similar to Terrell Allen, doing a lot of production in a very small amount of snaps. Reggie Brown had an 83 run block PFF. We interviewed him for Fear the Wave this week on our socials after practice, so catch that. And then Shadre Hurst, who had a 79 pass block PFF and had a great score, Player of the Week worthy score before the regrade as well. So his score was based on the artificial intelligence. A couple of other quick notes before we sign off. A look at the iPop's top players honorable mentions by game. Southeastern in the opener 15, then 6 for 3 straight weeks versus Kansas State, Oklahoma, and Lafayette. Then 19, which was a record for South Florida, 23, which broke that record at Alabama Birmingham the previous game, and then 16 this week, which was the 3rd most against Rice. Pat Jenkins had his first 3+ pressure game of the season with just his QB hits. He had 4 QB hits in his first 5 games here. Then he had 5 from ECU 2022 until before yesterday. He had 6 4+ pressure games last season and 4 in 2022. This was his first 5 pressure games since he had 8 at Memphis last season on Friday the 13th. Aiden Huntington now has 3 forced fumbles in his last 3 conference games, dating back to his last game at UL Monroe. Micah had his first forced fumble at Tulane, and Anthony Miller as well in his young career. Last stat of the day, Sam Howard, we already mentioned it, but first Tulane player to come up with multiple fumble recoveries since Nico Marley. So hope you enjoyed the segment with Derick Bugg, Director of Player Development for the Tulane football team, and my stats-based game breakdown versus Rice. Stay tuned for our preview of North Texas on Saturday and our interviews with Sam Howard and Will Carroll, our Inside the Wave players of the week. So long for now, Isaac Popper with Inside the Wave.